Thanks for joining us this afternoon. I'm here with my colleague Mable Elmore. We were just at her community office, which is just a couple blocks down the street, and which is still full of the materials celebrating Lapu Lapu Day, and people who've been quite traumatized by the last 24 hours. It's hard for me. I have just such a sick feeling. It was about 24 hours ago, just a few blocks from here. I was here with my daughter on stage with Mable and the organizers, celebrating a community in this province that does nothing but give, has nothing but love. I don't think there's a British Columbian that hasn't been touched in some way by the Filipino community. You can't go to a place that delivers care in our province and not meet a member of that community. Long-term care homes, our hospitals, childcare, schools. This is a community that gives and gives. And yesterday was a celebration of their culture. When I think about what's core to my experiences with the Filipino community, it's family, it's love, it's celebration, and that's what yesterday was. Music and food and joy. It was last night, probably about 8:45, when I first started getting messages from community members, from just wanted to make sure that I knew about what had happened. And at that point, it wasn't clear to me or to them, was it an accident? Was it an intentional attack? And I'm learning, like you, about the extent of what happened last night from the police. I spent this morning talking with community members, some of whom spent the night at the hospital, some of whom were right there, and know that just a fortune of timing that they weren't in the path of that vehicle. Volunteers. The grief right now and the solidarity with the Filipino community is not just Vancouver, it's not just British Columbia, it's national and it's even international. The messages are coming in of support for this amazing group of people. And it's hard for me, and I know for many people, in this moment, not to feel like friends of ours who we love, who've been attacked in this way, not to feel rage. The man who did this, who murdered innocent people, who destroyed a community celebration, and we don't know all the answers yet. We don't know why. But I want to turn the rage that I feel into ensuring that we stand with the Filipino community, that we deliver what they need, that we stand with those families who have lost loved ones, those who have been injured, that we are not defined by this. This event does not define us and the Filipino community or that celebration that I know it's hard to believe it in this moment, but I know we will come back stronger. This is a community that has seen hardship and always comes back stronger. And we'll be there standing with the Filipino community in Vancouver and British Columbia to make sure that that's the case. I was so moved by a couple of things that happened in real time last night. The message from the paramedics: we're overwhelmed. We're going to be a little bit slower to calls because of the volume of demand right now as a result of this incident. And then almost immediately after, don't worry, we're back to full strength. We've had paramedics call who want to come in. We've got 7 more ambulances on shift. And I know it wasn't just the paramedics. It was the police. It was the fire department. It was the workers in the hospitals. Everyone from the people who keep the hospital clean, to the lab techs, to the doctors and nurses who responded to this tragedy. And I want to say, many of whom themselves are Filipino, may have known people who were out celebrating that day. I want to say my deep appreciation on behalf of the entire province to those people who stepped up in heroic ways last night. To the people who grabbed the perpetrator and held him for police, who restrained themselves in a moment of what must have been unbelievable restraint, to not exact justice right there in that moment, but instead to turn him over to authorities. This is a community that is suffering right now. We're going to put our arms around them as all British Columbians. We're going to stand with them. We're going to support them just like they support us every single day in this province. It's their turn. It's their turn to get care from us. And I want to thank Mable and her team, who's ground zero on this street, for responding to the tragedy. And I want to thank the organizers of that incredible event. It's an event that was needed and deserved. It was a celebration that was overdue for the people who make this province work, the Filipino community. This evening I'll be meeting with the Prime Minister and with leaders from the Filipino community. I've had outreach from the leaders of every major party. We've had conversations with the Consul General of the Philippines, and we're all working together to make sure that the Filipino community is supported. With that, I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. To reporters on site first, and the first question will go to Global News.
Donald from Vancouver Police called this a watershed moment for the city, for the way that they'll deal with events going forward. How is this a watershed moment for the province and the way that you're going to, how this might influence policy around involuntary care, around mental health, around catch and release, if this does apply to the situation? How will this change things from your perspective as the Premier?
Well, what we know right now is 11 people have died, that there are many more injured, that this individual intentionally drove a vehicle into a crowd of people. What we don't know is why. And I'm counting on police. I'm counting on our justice system to get the answers that we need. And as we get those answers, we'll take the actions that are necessary. And for the city, for the police, I know they're looking at, given this unbelievable event, how they support event organizers with security, what's required going forward. And we'll work with them to make sure that they are able to get the information they need, get the resources they need to be able to ensure that we can have these celebrations. We need to have these celebrations as a community, and we also need them to be safe.
As you mentioned, this is a difficult situation because it does seem like mental illness, by all accounts, seems to be at play here. You also mentioned there will be a lot of people, a lot of taxpayers, a lot of constituents who are saying, we're so fed up with this. The healthcare system is not adequate. It needs an overhaul. It's expensive portfolio in the province, yet we have people who are mentally ill on the streets who are potentially, in this case, killing multiple people. We saw something last week on the seawall, a mentally ill person whose family couldn't get him help, who allegedly attacked a woman. How do you respond to the inevitable anger from British Columbians surrounding this story?
Well, I would say British Columbians are right to be angry. Here's a community that has done nothing but give, has been overlooked in terms of their contributions to our province, to this city, to this country, is finally having an event where their culture is upheld and celebrated, and it's destroyed by a single individual. Now, obviously, this person is profoundly ill, but there's so many questions that I have, there's so many questions that British Columbians have about how that could take place, how we could get to that moment. And as we learn those answers, we'll take the action that's necessary to ensure that it can't happen again. For now, our focus is on supporting the families of the victims and the victims who are injured and struggling right now in hospital to make sure that they have what they need. And for the whole community to wrap our arms around the Filipino community to support this incredibly important community in a moment of real desperate need.
Next, we'll go to Penny Daflos from CTV News.
Hey, Premier. Just wanted to, it was only a couple of days ago that we were talking to you about the opening of those secure and voluntary care beds. At the time, you told us that you wish that judges had had that option in other cases as well. Does this give you a new sense of urgency? Are you going to fast track more of those beds? Because 10 does not sound like a lot to start out with.
Yeah, we have a huge need in the province for interventionist mental health services. We've been working on this with Dr. Vigo. I was really pleased that we got those beds open in a very short period of time at Surrey Pretrial, but it's just the start. We have additional beds in Maple Ridge and other places. I'll say, though, in relation to this event, is I think it's important for investigators, for others, to go into this with an open mind, to provide the answers to the public, to everybody that they find, so that we can ensure that we have the systems in place to prevent this kind of thing from happening. And in some cases, that may be a change in how the city does security for events. It may be a change in healthcare response. We don't know the story of why or what led up to this man taking the horrific action that he did. But my commitment is we will support the police in finding those answers. We'll support the public in knowing as best we can what happened, as well how we're going to ensure that it doesn't happen again.
Next, we'll go to City News.
Hi, Premier. I'm just wondering if your conversations with the Consul General of the Philippines have maybe indicated how many of the victims may be Philippine nationals who may be dual citizens, who might be from this neighborhood, just what you know from them on who's been affected directly.
Thanks, Kier. The Consul General is obviously very interested in doing two things. One is supporting the Filipino expat community that lives here in British Columbia. It's very core to our mandate. And the other is identifying Filipino nationals who may have been visiting here that need additional support. Our intergovernmental relations team is working with the Consul General to get her access to a hospital. Obviously, the hospitals are still under considerable strain right now. And so we're trying to balance that need for that diplomatic contact with the fact that they're still working very hard to respond to the volume of injuries that were caused by this horrific incident.
Do you have a follow-up?
Is there anything else you could share from those conversations that may tell us anything about who was affected?
At this point, I understand that families are being sought to be contacted by police and by others, and so you have the information I do. I don't have any additional information about identities of individuals to share.
Okay, and with the last questions, we'll go to CBC.
I'm just wondering, the Vancouver Police talked about this being a watershed moment, and Sarah at Global mentioned this off the top. What do you say to people in Vancouver who are planning to attend big events moving forward and who will be given pause given what has happened here?
Well, you know, in this moment today, it's hard to imagine another celebration. We're grieving, people are in shock, people are in hospital, families are still being notified. People are trying to reach loved ones who they haven't been in contact with. But I know that this attack will not stop us from gathering and celebrating the cultures, celebrating the people of Vancouver or British Columbia. The Filipino community in particular will come out stronger. We'll work with the city, we'll work with police to ensure that events have the systems in place to keep people safe while they're celebrating. And we will, as a community, come out of this stronger.
Sarah, do you have a follow-up? Okay, that concludes today's event.
Thanks,
Thank you so
everybody.
much.